For 3 years, 3 months and 5 days I drove a Volkswagen Id.3. I just gave it back to leasing, and for 10 days now I'm driving this Id.7. And I want to go through the things that have changed for me, the things that are better and things that are not as good as they were in the Id.3. If you want to follow me on Instagram, BatteryLife1, and if you want to support the channel, there's a Patreon link in the description below, and there's also channel membership here on YouTube. Thank you very much. Let's start with the light. Id.7 has the same matrix LED headlights as my Id.3 first edition Plus had, but there are differences. So the high beam assist works the same way. The high beams look different. Not better and not worse, it just looks different. The low beams, I find that in the Id.7 have not as much reach as in the Id.3, and I preferred that. Here in the front I have a camera, and also in the mirrors. In my Id.3 didn't have that. So with the Id.7 I have 360-degree camera. We talk about the backup camera in a second. And the radar for the adaptive cruise control is now here, and I still don't know. I have to ask if this is heated. In my Id.3 it was behind this area, and it is exposed here, and it doesn't feel cold, so maybe it is heated, but I don't know. I have to find that out. If I know it, I will put it in here. My Id.3 was a first edition, and so some features were missing that then other Id.3 got. And for example, those sensors here on the side, parking sensors, where then you have auto lane change, you have Park Assist Plus, memory parking, and all of this, I didn't have. And now I have it. It's not a feature that I need in the car, but it's still nice to have. The Id.7 has a bigger battery. In my Id.3 I had the 62 kilowatt hour battery, usable 58, and this now has a 82, usable 77 kilowatt hours. It also has a better drag coefficient, so the consumption should be less than in my Id.3. I preferred the door handle in the Id.3. In the Id.3 the door handle was sticking out, and the locking was just way easier. It was never a problem. In Id.4, 5, 7, and I think in the bus, I'm not sure, now the door handle is in the form of the door now, and there's even an angle here, and so to get that angle, so to lock it with your hand, it's tinier, and sometimes I need more than one try to get it. In the Id.3 it always worked perfectly. Charging in the Id.7, DC charging is of course way better. AC charging is the same, 11 kilowatt, but what I have noticed in my Id.3, when I plugged it in at home, it started charging after 2 seconds. Here it takes 20 seconds or so. I don't know what it's doing, there's no communication. It should charge right away, but it doesn't. So in the first few times I was waiting, what's going on, why you're not charging? And for the money that you pay for an Id.7, and it should be upper class, I find this thing out of place. It should be the same as what BMW and Mercedes has, where you press a button and it flips open. I think this is not acceptable. Where in the Id.3 I could charge in the beginning a peak of 100 kilowatt, and it went under the 100 kilowatt at 30%, and then with a software update later, 2 years later, I got 134 kilowatt, and it also went under 100 kilowatt at 30% state of charge. With the Id.7 now I have a peak of 191, almost 192, and it goes under 100 kilowatt at 64%. So charging, even though it's a bigger battery, I mean that's the reason why, but still that I have more to charge into the battery, it's way better and faster. In the Id.7 I have the new motor APP 550, where in the Id.3 I had 150 kilowatt, 204 horsepower. I have now 210 kilowatt, 286 horsepower, so 82 horsepower more. And even though this car weighs, I just weighed it, 2,260 kilos, it accelerates better and it feels better on the road when you accelerate, especially at higher speeds, way more power than in my Id.3. And the limited top speed has changed too, where in the Id.3 I could drive 164 on the speedometer, it's now 181 on the speedometer. In the Id.7 now I have an electric liftgate, and it has pros and cons for me. So it's nice that with the key, when I'm not at the car, I can open it. If I have my hands full, I can open it with the gesture, and I can close it with the gesture. It opens pretty good, so there's not a lot of delay, and it opens pretty fast, but still in my Id.3 I can open and close the trunk way faster. And I notice that when I'm going there and I want to open it before, because it takes a bit longer, I have to find the key, of course. When the Id.3 I just went up, it unlocked and I opened it and done. The backup camera is something that is now way worse in the Id.7. In the Id.3 my backup camera was under the Volkswagen logo and it was hidden away, so it never got dirty, it never got wet. When I put the gear in reverse, it drove out and the backup camera was there. The angle was better than it is here now. It was always clean, always perfect. Now in the Id.7 it's down here, it gets wet, it gets dirty. The angle is not as good because it's so low and it's also looking a bit downwards. It has a spray system here in the infotainment system. In the camera you can let it clean it, and it works really well, I have to say, but overall it's not as good as it was in the Id.3. The rear window in the Id.7 doesn't have a wiper anymore, and when you have water on here and you drive, the wind will get the water off the window very fast. It works really well. Also when you drive it doesn't get any wetter, or like I said, when you drive in the rain. When it's dirty though, you just have to clean it. Where in the Id.3 I sprayed and let the wiper do its thing. Or when there's snow or something on it, that doesn't work anymore. You have to do that by hand. The interior of the Id.7 is way nicer. It looks better, it feels better, it feels upper class way more than it was in my Id.3. What I noticed, I got those floor mats for the whole car. They cost I think 120 euros, and the front ones are fine, but this one in the rear, when you get out of the car, it moves away. It doesn't stick very well to the floor, so it's crap. What is negative for us, for my wife and me, is we have three little dogs here in the rear. You can see it with the dog blanket, and because the car is so big now, we can barely get to them when we are in the front seats. Where in the Id.3 it was no problem, but now it doesn't work anymore, and you cannot adjust the rear seats that you move them forward. The car is of course way bigger than the Id.3, and I thought it would have all the negative sides of a bigger car. So it doesn't fit in the garage, or can barely get out of the car, and I can drive around in a parking garage or outside from our driveway. This will all be negative, but it isn't. So yes, the car is big, the trunk is ginormous. I don't need that. I also, like I said, I don't need the space in the rear seats. I wanted the comfort of the Id.7, not the size. But it fits in the garage fine, no problem at all. I can get in with all the parking sensors without having a problem. I can get out of the car without a problem. It's just 2 centimeters wider if you don't think about the mirror, so just the doors. So the doors open almost the exact same way. I can get out, and the turning circle is just 20 centimeters less than in my Id.3. It has an amazing turning circle of 10.8 meters, Id.3 at 10.6. So I get out of the driveway, which sometimes when there are other cars and our garbage stuff and everything what can be annoying, it's the same way. I don't feel any difference with it going around in corners and, like I said, in parking garages and stuff like this. I'm very impressed. Inside the car, like I said, interior quality and look is better. It looks My wife said it very nicely, sleek, especially when you can close it. I don't have the free space that I have in the Id.3 where there was nothing here, and I cannot adjust the armrest that I can do in the Id.3. That's the only thing that's sometimes a bit missing. The light control is the exact same thing. The steering wheel buttons are a bit different layout. For me, that's fine. I don't have any, it's not positive or negative, except that I have now steering wheel heater button on the steering wheel, which is awesome, and that the travel assist going through is now different, but that's fine with me. I noticed that touching the buttons feels way better than in my Id.3, so the feedback that you get from the touch sensitive buttons is better. That the wipers are now on the left, I don't care. That the wiping now has only 2 sensitivity settings, than where my Id.3 it was 4, I think. This is not as good. The wiping in my Id.3 was way better. So here I noticed that in sensitivity 1, sometimes it's not enough, and then in 2 it's way too much. And in my Id.3 with the 4 settings, I could adjust it in a way that I like it. It's not a big deal, but I liked it better. The ambient light is, now we have 4 zones and we have an extra light here with this effect. Cindy doesn't like that, she would want that off. For me, this is not positive or negative, it's just a different touch. I don't need it. I like ambient light, but I don't need this extra thing. I like that the foot area now has a color too, not just white as in the Id.3, and I like that I can still adjust it in different zones, different colors, and different brightness for the 4 zones that I have. In the Id.7 now I have 4 USB-Cs with 45 watt of charging. In the Id.3 it was good charging but not that powerful, and I have wireless charging. I didn't have that in the Id.3, but I rarely use it because my phone, Google Pixel 6, doesn't charge very fast on wireless charging, and it gets very hot, so I prefer cable charging. But it's nice that in the Id.7 I can put the cable under here on a little plastic thing. My cable is still way too long, that's why there's so much cable here, but I prefer that. In the Id.3 it was a good spot, better than in Id.4 or 5, but this is nice, and I have an extra pocket here, which is very deep. I like that, and an extra pocket down here. In the Id.3 my cockpit was attached to the steering wheel. This had pros and cons. The pros, that when you adjust the steering wheel it was still the same attached and didn't move, and you couldn't abstract the view to your cockpit. Negative was, for me, I could never put a camera here in front because it was always way too close to film it. Nobody else cares but me. And now I can put the steering wheel all the way out and have a bit of distance to the cockpit, but I still don't know if I can film it. I will try today and we'll see. The focus now in the Id.7 is more on a head-up display. I didn't have a head-up display in the Id.3. This is awesome, and it shows me more information than in the old cars that you can have with Id.3 head-up display. I still have augmented reality, but more features in there now, and I can see my state of charge, I can see my average consumption, and with the OK button, I didn't know that, I just found out, I can even reset that my driving data from since start. I can do that from here. What I'm missing, and this is a big thing for me, in my Id.3 since software 3.1, in the cockpit I had the navigation, which is not that important because of the head-up display here, but I had my trip data. This trip data, all 3, since start, since charging, and long term, I could see in my cockpit. So in my cockpit I had the state of charge, range, and my driving data. And this was amazing. I never had to look to the infotainment system. This doesn't exist anymore. In the head-up display in the Id.7 I can see my average consumption since start, and that's it. That's all I can do. I'm missing that. In the new Id.4, Id.5 with the same hardware, same software, you still have a cockpit and you still have the driving data. In the Id.7 you don't, and I miss that. Yeah, I think that's the big thing, the biggest thing I'm missing. In the Id.3 I still had the buttons down here. This had pros and cons. Of course you have the button always here, you can reach it very fast, but The old software was on 3.2 and even 3.5 was still laggy, was slow. The buttons for volume and temperature were not illuminated because there was gesture control. It had a lot of negatives, and this all got way better with this new hardware, with the new screen and with the new ID software 4.0. The starting process is extremely fast. In the Id.3, when I got into the car, it took 10-15 seconds till I could get into the climate. Now it's 5 seconds or less. It starts really fast. I have a little video here where the car was standing for 20 hours. I got in and it started really fast. It's amazing. Also, the buttons are now illuminated, and the new software has now area for the climate down here, where there are 5 buttons that you can customize yourself. You can have other things here if you want, from smart climate and so on. You have your seat heater right here. You don't have to go into a system, into climate, and change that, the same as the steering wheel heater, like I said before. You have buttons up here that you can adjust, and buttons here in car that you can adjust. It's way more customizable. It works way better. It has way more features. I love it a lot. This infotainment system is killer. I now have Spotify in here, which they tried with the old ID software, but it doesn't work very well. That's why they discontinued it on the old software. You can now get it only with new ID software 4.0. And I get battery preheating, which was very important in my Id.3. When I got my Id.3, the battery heating was automatic in a way that when the battery was under 7 degrees cold, not the outside temperature, the battery pack itself, it would be heated up to 13 degrees, and then I would have full power and full regen. I love that, to have that power and regen. Negative was that it was a high consumption when you just drove a very short distance. That's why they changed it. Only a little bit of heating when the battery pack is under 0 degrees. But that means that most of the time when I drove my Id.3, I didn't have full regen or full power in the winter. And I didn't like that. But now in ID software 4.0, I can see what my current DC charging power will be. If I heat it up, to what number it can go and how long the heating up process would start. So if I would not have full power, I can start battery preheating till I have full power, and I don't have to YOLO it, so full power, full regen, because that's sometimes uncomfortable when you have a wife and 3 dogs in the back. And this, I can just do this if I want it. I like to have that choice, and I like to have battery preheating to if I'm navigating to a charger automatically, or if I do it myself for whatever reason, for tests and stuff like this. This is awesome. I love it a lot. And this will never come to the old software, the old hardware till 3.7. It will only come with the new hardware and software starting 4.0. The one annoying thing in this ID software 4.0, and it drives me crazy, is that the view is reset. And I mean, so for example here, I have the compass here, and I want to see my exact location. For me, it's very interesting to see the height above sea level, 440 meters. If I go in a menu, let's say into vehicle, and then I go back, it's back to the compass. So I have to go back to here. This is annoying, and it's the same with every menu. So if I go in here in vehicle, go to Windows, I get out of it, go back to vehicle, I'm an idiot. Go back to vehicle, it's not in window. I have to go back to this again. And this is with everything. This is with this too. Here are all my apps. I'm in the second window. I go to sound. I go back. Again, I'm in the first window. I have to go back to the sound. And this is annoying. I would love if it would just stay the way that it was before. And since we were at sound, I have more control over the sound now. In my Id.3, I only had speakers in the front. The first Plus was like that. Now I have, I think, 16 speakers or something, even a center speaker. I have a subwoofer in the rear, 700 watt Harman Kardon sound. It sounds better than in the Id.3. It's not the best sounding sound system I've ever experienced, but it's one of the top ones. I like it. It sounds great. I even have the surround sound a tiny bit on. It gives me a bit of a feeling where left and right is, more than if it's just in stereo, and it's not too much. If I put it all the way up, the highs get a bit too crispy for me. The climate, this is something important to me and my wife. Like I said, I love that I can adjust 5 buttons down here in the climate. I have everything in here. I have an extra rear button. I like that. I can adjust the temperature for the dogs, and they have seat heating if it's, for whatever reason, extremely cold in here. I love it. I have an auto function. My air vents here I cannot adjust by hand. I have to do it with the finger here, but I can set it to blow away from me or blow on me. But it works really well. So when you have those away from me, I don't feel an airflow on me. It works well. I like it. But I'm not a fan of the auto function, by the way. I rather do it myself. And I don't like it in the middle anyways. For me, that's not better or worse. It's just a little toy that you can do. I love that I have windshield heating now, and I even put a little icon here. And this is done not by wires, it's by infrared. It works, but when there's fog up here, it doesn't work very well. It turns off automatically after a while. The seat heater is 10 times better. It gets very hot, not too fast, but a good amount of time. Seat cooling I haven't used yet, the same with the drying. Massage function is amazing. Overall, the car heats up to the set temperature very well, very fast. What I noticed, when it reaches the temperature, I can feel cold air. And in my Id.3 that wasn't happening at 23 degrees. Here it happens at 23, and sometimes I have to beef it up a bit to 23.5. That's negative. The most negative part that I noticed with the climate, the preheating, and I don't know if this is not an error here in here, is I had the car charged to 90% this morning. The car was plugged in, the charger was working. I preheated the car, I got into the car, and the batteries read 88%. So it used the battery and not from the charger. And that shouldn't happen. When it's plugged in and I preheat the car, it should come from the charger. Everything worked, but it didn't use the battery. And when I preheat the car in the app, it even says charging. Sometimes it says preheating, and then the charging starts as well, where it says charging to the desired charge limit. And I don't know, never happened in my Id.3. That's weird. What got better, or let's say weird and then better, is assist system turn off when you start. So I drive without lane assist because on small country roads that we have here, it's not working well, because when I drive too much to the right, it pulls me to the middle, and then I'm almost at the middle line. I don't like that. In my Id.3 I had to press assist system, lane assist, off. So 3 things and then go back. Now it's 2 things. Assist, it's here, I turn it off and I can go back. That's very well done. I love it. I mean, these buttons, I put that up here. It works really well. And what you also have to turn off is the speed warning. EU regulation says that from now on, every new car that comes out needs a speed warning. That means if you drive over the speed, if it's 30 and you drive 32, it gives you a chime twice. It's not horrible, but it's still annoying. And the thing is, if you change stuff in here, so if I change the threshold, if I change something here and still keep it on, it won't remember that. Also, it's just the way that it was before. But it's nice that I can just turn it off the same way as I just did lane assist, turn those 2 off, and it's done. And it, again, when you have a speed limit and you drive under it, above it, it will beep again, and it's a chime, it's not a beep, but it's annoying, it's distracting, it's not helpful, and that's why I turn it off. And I can turn it off pretty fast, pretty easy. but still it's annoying. And the other thing is the drive mode. Every time I get into the car, drive mode is in comfort. In my Id.3 it remembered where I was. I have individual, which is the same as comfort except for adaptive cruise control in eco. I like this better on the country road, it's a bit smoother. On the highway I want it in comfort as well. And sadly I have to change that also when I start driving. One thing I forgot, it's the new Routeplanner in the Id.7 with ID software 4.0, not 0.4. As in other ID cars since 3.0, I think, you have a Routeplanner that puts in automatically charging stopovers. And you still have the same settings. With what range do you want to arrive at the destination, and with what range you want to arrive at a charging stopover. And you can say that you want to prioritize WeCharge, so what is supported by the WeCharge card that you most likely have with the Id.7. And that's it. But the navigation is now done in a totally different way, not weird. So when I put in this charger here, it will add automatically charging stops. It does it way faster, and it will now in the old software till 3.7, the Routeplanner only looks at your range. And that's it. So it can see you have 296 kilometers of range, so you can drive 200 kilometers, charge to a touch 100 kilometers of range and go on, for example. If you then go on the highway, your consumption is higher, the range goes down, it will change the charging stop accordingly. And this can happen a lot of times. I tested this in an Id.3 facelift with ID software 3.5. Now, the new Routeplanner in ID software 4.0 knows that when you're on the highway, your consumption is higher. It will look at how you drive over the last weeks and know, he's driving a bit faster, he will have higher consumption. It will look at elevation change. If you go uphill, it will calculate different charging than when you go downhill, and I think even the weather, I'm not sure. And right now it tells me I should charge at Aldi Süd, which is crap because today is a holiday and Aldi Süd charger most likely will not be open, so this is still annoying. And I cannot say I would love to have chargers that have more than one stall, so 4. What you can do though is go into and say I want another charging location. It will show me chargers around that area, and you can filter them. I can say only Ionity, only above 100 kilowatt. And then when I go in here, it will look for Ionity stations in that area, and since there are not any, it has a problem. Well, there should be Himmelkron is here, and Neumarkt, that's Himmelkron, and Neumarkt is down here. Exactly. But you can look for others. And that was the same in 3.5. But important is that it will now charge a bit differently, that you can get that way, and I like it. Let's drive the Id.7 a bit. You're still greeted as in the Id.3 with old software with this horrible thing with the privacy setting, and you can't do stuff in the climate, but you cannot do anything in the system if you don't press OK. That's annoying, and Volkswagen should get rid of that fast. This is really annoying. Get rid of it. You start the Id.7 as all ID cars just by pressing the brake pedal and the car is on. I want the lights on, it's a bit weird. And then your whole infotainment system is on, and you put it into gear here on the side, and when you put it into gear, it can be D right away with automatic regen or no regen depending on your settings, and B where it is in the strongest regen. In my cockpit I can see the green and the blue line, which shows me how much regen or power I'm using or is available. Right now at 83% and 7 degrees outside temperature I have full, even though the battery tells me here it's not extremely warm. And for example, if the battery is full, then you don't have full regen, and if you are at a low state of charge, if the battery is very cold, then you don't have full power. What's different in the Id.7, when you drive on, the seat belt will be tightened for you. That's not available in the other cars. The starting to drive is 10 times more comfortable than it was in my Id.3. My Id.3 didn't do anything, and then a bit more. So the accelerator pedal was very sensitive. Here now it's very, very comfortable, and I can adjust it better. And like I said, turning circle, it's exactly the same. I don't feel any difference in turning circle Id.3 to Id.7. It should be, like I said, 20 centimeters different. I don't notice it. Overall, it's so comfortable. This is way more comfortable than the Id.3, more comfortable than Id.4 and 5. Here's my speed warning, if you have heard it. Noise level on low speeds up to 100 kilometers an hour, it's really quieter than my Id.3. At higher speeds, 130, I'm not sure. I haven't driven my Id.3 on the highway for a while, and now I don't have it anymore. But the Id.3, I could never complain that it was loud at 130, and here it's also perfect. I have no problem. Maybe it is a bit quieter, but it's not the world, and but both are fine. Cornering is way better than in the Id.3. It feels amazing. Id.3 was good, but I could feel that it's, I don't know, it's moving a bit in the corner when I was driving a bit too fast. This is all gone. Id.7, even though I have it in comfort, not in sport, feels amazing in corners. Top. And then the power, like I said, the 80 horsepower more, you feel it. It's more. I didn't think it would be, but it is. And another thing, what I had to do right now, the brake feel in my Id.3, and I think it was just in my car, was not good. When I was braking a tiny bit, and then I needed way more brake force because something was happening, it felt weird. It felt like this is not appropriate to the pressure that I'm giving the pedal. And right now, in this Id.7, and I think in other cars as well, this was just my Id.3, my car, it's billion times better. The brake feel is amazing. You have regen first, and then you have the friction brakes. Awesome. The next is regen with the new motor, even though I only have rear wheel drive, and even though Volkswagen limits the regen a lot because of safety, they don't want the rear wheels to move on slippery roads. Regen is stronger in here. I notice I touch the brakes way less. I think they made the curve a bit different, so when you get off the accelerator pedal, regen kicks in a bit faster. Even though it's still comfortable, it's not, oh my god, braking me like crazy. I can adjust it as well as in the Id.3, but it's more braking force. Even though this car is heavier, it has more regen. Awesome. So other cars have way higher regen and can do one pedal drive. Id.7 still can't do that. What I also noticed, and this is important to me and awesome, is that when I'm driving in adaptive cruise control and I turn it off, in my Id.3, when I was in B, the brake force was very strong. So when you turned off cruise control, it was a lot of braking force, even though you didn't need it. So every time I turn it off, I have to be on the accelerator pedal and estimate what I need, so it's not uncomfortable. In the Id.7 now, this is less coming in, so when you turn it off, there's a bit of a delay till it does this. Way more comfortable. The regen still kicks in, but not right away, and it's awesome. But that's it for me. Thank you very much for watching. Have a great day and take care. Bye.